It really, you kind of hit on it, honestly, Yakub, because my next question is about creative expression, and specifically creative expression in the sense of it being a healing salve. How do we heal through creative expression, right? We talked about, mental health, but how does creative expression become a healing salve for your experiences with, say, race and culture?
I would say how we begin to heal is that part of you have to be able to know who you are, part of knowing who you are, right? When we talk about being as a social worker, mental health practitioner, if I'm not aware of my own need to heal, and I'm trying to support someone that needs healing, we say sometimes hurt people, but heal people also heal people. So in that vein, just being able to understand, know me, because I can't give you what I don't have. Mm-hmm. So being able to pour into myself with whatever it is that makes me who I am authentically, whatever gives me life, if it's drawing, if it's art, if it's music, whatever it is. And sometimes sitting with someone is going to be difficult, or could be difficult, if I'm not aware, or I'm coming with this understanding of this is how you should show up. And if I'm thinking this is how you should show up and you don't, it can impact my ability to support you and to be with you, because we have to be before we do. Mm-hmm. And so part of that is understanding that it's in you. You are your superpower. But if you're hurt, the individuals that you sit with, they're going to be hurt as well. And I think that's what my kids taught me, that whatever is inside of me is what I'm going to pass on to them. And as I'm working with families and working with so many different individuals, I realized they used to say sometimes, Rhonda, what it is about you? And I said, I don't know, right? And part of it is when I'm comparing myself to others. I was looking, to be honest, up with the degrees and all the letters. And so I would say it can't be my knowledge. But what I realize is that when it's coming from the heart, it flows, it's consistent. And I sometimes say, if it's not from the heart, if you don't have a heart, it's going to die. So you're going to keep showing up, doing things here and there, and it's not going to be consistent. And so part of it is being able to heal yourself, practice things that pour into you, even if it's drinking water, dance, whatever it is, so that you can be your best self and be that purposeful, because we all come here with a different purpose. I cannot fulfill yours and you cannot fulfill mine. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm not okay, I'm not even going to be able to see you, because I didn't even see myself, and I'm not aware that whatever is inside of me is light. So I'm just going to pass this.
Let me get a bowl. Well, I mean, for those who have seen tonight, I mean, y'all saw me tearing and crying, just releasing older work that it has been written. A little backstory. I started writing at 14 years old. I didn't know who my mom was. Yeah, I was born in Chicago as well. I left that transplant part out because, like, sometimes I'll be feeling like I was only in Chicago for like 45 minutes. So like Chicago is in my name, but Rochester literally raised me. But I started writing because I didn't know who my mom was. And my first ever verse was about that motherless upbringing. I was a hurt kid. I was hurt as a kid, like just growing up, seeing all the little kids on Mother's Day, and I'm like, where's mine? Who do I look like? You know, my grandmother was my only, representation of a mom. You know, I've called her mom, my whole life. And so through writing, I healed that wound of being able to even say that I have a mom besides my grandmother, and give her that honor while, healing the wounds that she created, her absence created. And then in that spark, it was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. Let me keep writing. And, my bros, they saw me come into who I am as a poet. It started off when I was rapping, just impressing people, just the Lil Wayne bars and the punchlines and the this, and then I kind of transitioned from that and started telling my story because I realized how I would feel when I'm writing this, but even more how I would feel when I perform it, and even more how other people received it when I performed it. When a 44-year-old man can come up to my 22-year-old self and be like, you don't even know, but you just saved a 44-year-old man's life. And I'm like, well, how? How? I literally just talked about my brother being incarcerated. I literally just talked about my abandonment issues. How did me talking about me help anybody else understanding that my art was healing at 22 years old and deciding, oh, this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. And even through the grief that I'm dealing with now, when my grandmother transitioned in October, and people were telling me, oh, I know you in pain, but I know you're gonna create the most beautiful, work in honor of your mother when you get ready. And I was like, man, don't talk to me. Because don't tell me about my creation right now when I just want to create another day with her. Don't talk about creation. But I can't get mad that they're right in a way, because my triumph has always come from my turmoil, always. And my most beautiful pieces that I have ever created has came from the darkest moments in my life. House fires, losing my mom, not knowing who my biological mother is, issues with my father, issues with my depression, issues with drinking, issues with bullying. All of my pain has turned into literature and art pieces that have inspired other people and thus have poured back inspiration for me to keep it going. So like through that creative process has just fueled a never ending cycle of hurting, healing others with my hurting and healing. And that's literally what makes me up today. Every time she looks at me with the, how do I follow that?
I know, right? Like, that was powerful, bro.
It was. Ooh. As I said earlier, I've been doing this work for a long time. And I truly believe what my sister just said. You have to pour into you first before you can give to others. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I've always been, oh, I can do it. Anybody call, I can do it. And finally you decide, wait a minute, I can't do it anymore. I need help. And one of the things the past few years have taught me, especially with COVID, seeing so many of the people that I loved and care about dying, and finally realizing that you got to take care of you first. You got to make a change, and you got to be honest with yourself about it. We promise the world to whoever, but we don't believe it. We don't do it. We don't trust it. And you got to put yourself first. And again, I keep reiterating that, because we can't do anything if we're broken, because you're passing on that pain to someone else. And learning that lesson and seeing that sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to let things go. You have to let people go in order to be true to you. And I don't know, I guess as you get to a stage in your life when, you know what, it's like you have to be selfish. I used to have a friend that tell me that all the time, you have to be selfish. And I never could understand that, because I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I have a family. I have friends that need and want and do. And it's kind of like, you know what? He's like, no, it doesn't matter. You have to be first. You have to be first, no matter what happens. So I guess I'll just leave you with that. You have to be first.
Okay. I feel like I'm kind of like a alchemist. I make my own medicine with the artwork. Sometimes I'll create a piece. I'll paint something. It could be random. It's not for everybody to see. It's just in the moment of hearing. You can hear a paintbrush go across the canvas. If you're in a room by yourself and it's quiet, you can hear it makes a sound. The way that a palette knife sounds when it hits a glass palette, it's a sound. Like I look for those moments for my own medicine, for my own process, my own healing. I don't always get it because when you do business with art, the fun part kind of goes away. You still get those moments, but if it's a deadline or it's like it kind of yes, exactly, commissions, which how I feel about that. But it's like but the having those moments to make my own medicine is important. And then a weakness with that for me is that what you were saying, being selfish. I don't know how to be selfish for myself. Everything that I do, I always feel like a little piece of that it's got to be for somebody else, because all of us are going through it and hurting. And people that are around me can look back over experiences they've had with me. I have this thing. It goes back to the neighborhood, me and my friends. You come together, you leave together. You eat, we eat. And when I say we was broke, I don't like to use poor. Dick Gregory taught me that. He said, don't say I was poor. That's a mindset. So I was broke. But we were broke, and we would go to the restaurant on 71st Street and on the south side of Chicago with $1.50 and buy a piece of puff and an order of fries and split it like 5 ways. A piece of puff is not bigger than my hand. But me and my friends would split that 5 ways and count the fries. 19, 5, dang, let me get the little one. And so it's hard for me to have that, and I need it. That's a weakness for me. I need that. I need to be able to just say, let me get some sleep. While, everybody else is up, but I need to go to sleep. I don't have that gear in my machine where it's like if you're up, I have to be up too. And I sleep when everybody else goes to sleep because it feels like I have to be there to look out for you, And maybe that's a part of me that, being completely vulnerable, like where I wish that I had somebody or people like that for me when I was a young person that would stay up, and watch my back. And there were. It just wasn't articulated. A lot of times, black men, we don't say it. I love you. I never heard my father say I love you before he passed. What he said to me, he leaned back and looked at me. He's like, man, you all right. That mean I love you. I get it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's that part. That vulnerability and that being selfish is a weakness for me. But I still am working constantly to make my own medicine.
Can I just say one thing?
Please.
One of the words that I used to use a lot was selfish, and I've replaced that with self-full.
Self-full.
Yes.
So. I like that.
Suppression
equals
depression. Expression heals depression.
Well, there you go. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, really. That was good, yo. That was good. So I want to ask this question. You guys have already kind of hit on, the transparency, personal struggles, creative expression. How has that influenced others? Like Shai talked about his students. How has what we've gone through and being transparent about these personal struggles influenced others? Who are you influencing, Rhonda?
I like to say love and all that starts from home. And so the individuals that I started to impact and influence were my daughters. And part of it is being able to admit and not to be perfect, but to show them even when I had all my learning disabilities, to be very honest with them, to be honest with some of my struggles. One of the things that I never wanted to do was to show up perfect and to be honest with them. And I think that would be one of the things that, or some of the, I should say, the individuals, the first individuals that I know have impact or influence, because I can hear them. One of my oldest is in college, and she comes back sometimes and say, I'm glad that you taught me how to cope, and I'm glad you taught me how to breathe and how to write, and she's crocheting and doing all those healthy things. So I started with my daughters, and also as I was doing social work, I would say some of the families that I worked with, because usually families mean used to a white social worker coming to the home, and so having a black social worker oftentimes had a different impact and influence on families, and they would say that. So I would use those two families that I've worked with in the past. And first off, love starts at home, so my beautiful love lines.
Well, I mean, I kind of touched on it a little earlier. It's, when we started doing slam poetry, we talked about like some of our pieces, and slam poetry is a sport. If people don't really know, it's competition poetry. We go in with our story, and our aim is to tell our story in the best way, deliver it in the best way with the top-notch performance and keen articulation, and impact a bunch of random judges who might not know diddly squat about poetry and get 10s out of, from a score from 0 to a 10. And when we are writing our poetry unapologetically, we authentically, this is a thing that our team, not throwing shade at any of the teams that we don't went through, but some people were literally poeting for points, all right? There are some people who were doing trauma porn and was like, oh, let me do an abortion piece because that's going to impact any mothers out there. Oh, let's do a slavery piece, or let's name drop all the people who were killed by police officers because that's going to get the people because it's a current topic. Sure. We went in with whatever story that we felt and did not care about if it was going to get a 10, because regardless, and I don't know if it was either Shaq or Andy who told us it was I forgot where we were, but the aim of poetry is to impact you, affect you, whether it is positively or negatively. By the time I get off that stage, if you are impacted in any way, I did my job. So with that being said, I authentically aim to just perform, write, and if I don't try to inspire, it's not my aim to be like, oh, I'm going to write this to inspire you. I'm going to write this if it impacts you in any way, if it causes you to think, if it causes a spark, then I did my job. I did something. I planted a seed in hopes that it can grow into something for your future. It's important to, literally, I say that we're water. We're all this big body of water, and whatever impact that I can make, whatever I can do with my transparency, with my authenticity, that's just a ripple. Hopefully, you in the same body of water as me, if this ripple touches you and you do the same, you create a ripple. And then whoever's next to you, they create a ripple. If we can all create a ripple, by the time we get to the end, we'll be a wave. And so if my story, if I could just start with that ripple and hopefully reach everybody else, then we could be a tsunami of change. That's what I would hope.
As I was sitting here listening to the stories, I think about the young ladies that I mentored when I was at the Bank of America. I started a reading program for one of the schools, number 19 school. And, I ain't going to tell my age, but, when they come back to you and they say, Miss Teresa, thank you. I went on to college. I went on to do this. I went on to do that. That's when I know I did my job. So.
I'm kind of like you with this job where sometimes people will approach me and say, man, you helped me do this. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't know that I did it. But I learned something about elders. And I'll be 49 years old this year. And I learned something about elders years and years ago. That elders are like a pool, a fountain with water in it, where people can approach and drink from it when they need it. It's not like a water hose where it's spraying water symbolically meaning wisdom. It's not a water hose that you're spraying it on people, wisdom. It's a fountain where water is there when somebody that's younger or older, whoever, can just come to it and drink it. Now, we all have that fountain or that pool. Some smaller than others. Some just gotta live a little longer, right? They gotta live a little longer. In Islam, it's a thing to say that one of the 7 signs of insanity, the 7 parts to insanity, one of them is youth, right? One of them is youth, and saying the only cure is to get older, live another day, and you'll learn something. You'll stop jumping off that porch like that when that knee turned 40. You know what I mean? Right? You won't be skipping steps going down, you know. And that just experience, feeling yourself out, getting older. Man, my elbow hurt for no reason. I'm trying to figure it out. Or, man, I'm tired. I usually tired. Time is it? 6:30. 6:30. Jeez. So I think that pool, as you go through life and start to grow, I'm talking from and to myself. As we grow older, we get more experiences, we meet more people, that pool gets bigger and bigger. And if we approach life as a learner, as a student, and have the intention of learning from everybody that we meet. I started that journey when I was 22 years old. Learning from everybody, you'll find that you'll become a scholar pretty quickly. Just learning from not just scholars, learn from the homeless cat that's down the street named Gerald by our building, where I pulled up on a funny story. I went and bought a slice of pizza for myself and a snapper, and I came out and I saw him sitting on the bench, and I was like, hey, what's up, bro? You ate lunch yet? Nah. Here. What's that? A slice of pizza. Is it fresh? I said, do it matter? And we started laughing, and I sat down and met him and started talking to him and found out his name was Gerald. He's a cool guy. Some of y'all might have seen him. He pushed a shopping cart down Main Street. Old black guy with a little gray beard. Y'all ever see him? Some of y'all seen him, right? It ain't but 30 homeless people on Main Street that everybody complaining about, right? So that guy, sitting down and meeting him and having a conversation with him, he made my pool a little wider. He made my pool a little wider. And going through life, getting older, having those experiences will cure the insanity of our youth and become wise people and be able to help others. So I probably went way off the question.
Yeah, it was more so how does your influence impact others? And I can just tell you just from being a part of I can kind of, chime in on that. Just being a part of the Ninth Floor Arts Collective myself and one of the founding members, the way you've impacted me is your work ethic. You're a stand-up guy, you're solid, and I wouldn't want to be in business with any other person other than yourself. So, you impact me in that way, in a very positive way, in a way that really sees the future of possibilities. And that's very important. So I appreciate you. And that's just one example of how your influence impacts somebody. You've impacted me. Yeah, I got you. So last question, guys. Last question. We've definitely gone over, but this has been good. Has it not? Has this been good? Has this been all right? Okay. All right. Okay. So last question. we want to just bring it back full circle with the interconnectedness, right? Because of the interconnection among people, what impacts one impacts all, as Dr. King stated. So how does being who we ought to be impact social justice in a way that impacts mental health personally or communally? We'll end with that. How does being who we ought to be impact social justice in a way that impacts mental health personally or communally?
I would say being who I am has and continue to, just from part of it is being in a system that sometimes may not understand things. So being at a table and being able to use a voice that impacts some systemic change. So I've been able to do some of that, and even in my infant mental health. So I also teach infant mental health. So also even with those lens, so sometimes it has to come from an equity lens, and having those discussions, looking at policies where I'm working, and really speaking that we need to change this if we're going to do this. So from what I would say, it's really being intentional when I'm at the table, being who I am, because there's only one Rhonda, and that's my superpower.
That's right.
And so just leading with that.
I'll say DC. I'll be using BC, like 2019 BC before COVID, but 2020 DC during COVID. When the revolution started to really take its, broadcast itself, with George Floyd's murder, Breonna Taylor, Anthony McLean, and some more that happened during that summer. When I was living in Los Angeles, I was, for some time, scared to, get out and join the people and protest, because I was definitely heavily a transplant. I was only in LA for a year at that time, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything, and I'm like, okay, I really want to stand in solidarity, but I don't know anybody, and I don't know like who's gonna protect me if anything happens. And then I say, you know what, F it, I'm gonna go. And I started to see a lot of the performative, stuff that was going on. It's Hollywood, right? It's LA. So there's a lot of people who are seizing the moment to make some content. TikTok had just started really blowing up, so people making TikToks off of the protests and stuff like that. And I started getting just angry, right? I stopped attending a lot of these functions because I didn't approve of a lot of the organizers. And people were asking me, again, the same way that they said about, my grandmother's passing, like, I know you're going to create something. They're like, Shy, I know you got something to say about all of this. I know you're going to create some work to talk, something to inspire us, to talk about what's going on. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to write no song. I want to fight. I don't want to write anything about, I'm tired of singing and dancing in the street about us being killed. I'm tired of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not about to write another poem I'm not thinking about the inspiration. I'm thinking about the gain that I get as an artist, this being my business and creating something to be streamed or anything about this struggle. I don't want to be another placement on somebody's playlist. I really want to fight. And I didn't. For the whole summer, I didn't create anything. I was angry. And then I got worried about what happened with Daniel Prude. And again, I was in LA. I was going to all of the organizers, and I'm like, yo, I know every day we were listing a new name of something that had happened, stuff that was going on in the Pasadenas, the Orange counties, all of the stuff that was going on in the LA area. And I'm like, yo, I'm from Rochester, New York. This just came across my timeline. A black man got treated like George Floyd before George Floyd. And it just hit the light. Can we do something in solidarity with my city? And nobody's saying nothing. So I'm like, oh, for real? And so I wrote a song, not just out of anger. And some people might know it. It's called Flipping Shit Over. And that song was not therapeutic in any way, not, oh, please stop killing. No, none of that. It was like, they say pain inspires song. Everybody want to know what time I'm on. The peace inside is gone. Beef with police was my alarm. They pushed me. Think that we, see. Well, take a look. See, I was inside the bong. Don't want smoke. I want entire bomb. My response, I'm flipping all this shit over. And it was really just to let that anger out. And it's like, yo, if I'm going to do anything, this is my radicalism. This is me showing how angry I am, what I want. I want the system to be burned down. I want it to be rearranged. I want us to tear it down and build it back up in a way that benefits us and keeps us from being slain in these streets. What ended up happening from that, I ended up coming back to Rochester after what happened with Daniel Prue. My brother brought me back because I was like, yo, I can't be in LA knowing what the hell's going on in my city. I'm seeing a large number of our community walking down Jefferson Ave, and that's something that's historical because you got people that don't know nothing about social justice at all. They just in the hood chilling, and they walking with us. Right. And that never happened. Right. When we were talking about Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, and we had the protests in 2016, nobody was really joining us for real. It wasn't a lot of people joining us. They was looking at the back, laughing at us, saying like, yo, why they getting arrested for protesting, bro? Never be me. I ain't never gonna do that. And they stood with us in 2020. And I'm like, I gotta come back and I gotta stand with us too. And I didn't know that song, I didn't ask to perform, but people wanted me to because the fact that energy was something that was missing. That fire, that drive, and I didn't know that I was creating that. I just knew that I was being who I ought to be, angry, tied to that rage that you were talking about, and just a creative that just wanted to depict that red on that page. And that ended up being a battery for what we were needing here in Rochester, New York. Yes. And so that's what I can say about it.
Well, I have to say that, again, we have to bring our authentic self to the table. Mm-hmm. And I also appreciate what you said. Well, if you don't have a table, you make a table. Yeah. And being a Black woman in a predominantly white institution, I feel that, okay, I can't carry us all on our backs, but I will bring us to the table. And again, with the mental health slant, we have to take care of us, and we have to take care of each other in some sort. And, you know, I'm there now, but I got to look for the next person that's coming through the door. I have to be the one that kind of kicks that door open for them, right, and make sure that, you know, they are represented and represented correctly.
Once they get there, what happens?
Well, once they get there, hopefully they'll be able to sit there and bring some good thought and process to the table. Not all of us are going to be ready to be at that table, but you know what? We still have to make sure that we're able to help the next person get there. So,
as it applies to social justice, we had this conversation before too, Rashaad, but I feel like that there was a blessing and a curse that came with Malcolm and Martin. Mm. They convinced a lot of people that being an orator was the role in social justice, having the microphone in front of your face. Me, I ain't scared of y'all, so I'll sit here and talk, but I'd rather let Rashaad stand here and talk than me get in front of you. It's just not what I like to do. You're not also going to see me out at marches, right? I personally, y'all can fight me later, I don't think it's an effective method of challenging a powerful militarized government. I don't think it's very effective because Philando Castile happened in the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, and worse and worse and worse and worse to the plantation, right? And it's still happening. I've seen, I was gone 6 years in a CCA prison in Southwest Oklahoma. I've seen things with my own eyes in America. 9/11 happened, I was there. I remember a guy came, I told you the story, a guy came to my cell and looked in the door, he said, "We at war." What is this fool talking about? Turn on the TV and I see the boom, hit the building. And I was one of the people that people would come to and ask questions like, make sense of this. What happened? What do you think this is? And I remember the people were just talking around me. We were having a conversation. People were talking. And somebody said, man, whoever it is, man, I hope they come get us out of here. America, right? We fight on different fronts. We have different issues. And like King said, until we find that common thread between the prisoner, the person who works at the bank, the person who works in a politician, the orator, the person who's marching, I'm not saying do away with it. That's somebody's role. We need historians. We need writers. We need poets. We need painters. We need everybody to find that common thread between all of us. Because if not, that story I just shared the other day about the people in the bottom of a boat, the people up top, they're out at sea, the people up top got fresh water to drink, and they ain't giving them no water at the bottom of the boat. And what they do? Somebody found a corkscrew. I got an idea. Sink the whole ship because the people upstairs being greedy. America. So it ain't for all of us to be an orator. We play different roles. Those that's in the bottom of the ship, and I'm down there with them still. I teach in the prisons. I'm down there with them still, right? And I'm trying to keep the corkscrew out their hand. And I go up top sometimes, and they like, man, Yaku, you want some of this water? Yeah, give me a container so I could take some with me with my artwork. That's my contribution. I'm not the orator. I ain't Malcolm. I ain't Martin. Not a marcher. I used to be a poet back in the day. I was good, I promise. Wasn't as good as y'all. Wasn't as good as y'all. But I used to do poetry. I used to rap once upon a time, 1989, straight out of Compton, song 2 and 3. Once upon a time. But the truth is that we all play different roles, and I think it's important when we speak of inspiration to help people find out what their role is in this big thing that we're doing in America. It's a lot of moving parts, so I feel like my artwork is important. It's important. It's my son and his friends look at it. He goes to school, he convinced his whole class, we're going to be professional artists. Because Nasir said it. Right? Because Nasir said it because he hears his dad talking about it. And he hears Rashaad talking about it. And he hears Najee and Richmond Fudge. And all these names, my son could go to school and name drop. Yeah, I know them. That's important. So we can know what roles we play and become effective in your lane. In your lane. Yeah, I'm a painter. I do more than paint. I teach life skills. I use art to teach life skills. It's a vehicle that I use to have tough conversations, to help people to see themselves in a world where we don't get to. I don't know nobody look like Kodak Black with a mouth full of gold teeth. I don't know nobody look like, that's a caricature. So I got to create another image so young people and older, my age too, can look at that and say, okay, I see myself there. And not what they keep pushing to me on the screen and on Instagram and all this stuff, right? Yeah, that exists. And I'm not going to, disavow that existence of that caricature, right? Character, I'm sorry. It's a caricature term. Another conversation. But I'm not going to disavow the existence of that. But I need to show an alternative, and that's the role that I play in regards to social justice. Presenting an alternative view for everybody to see, every community to see. Look at us. Look, I'm riding. Look, no hands. Look, we can do it. Like, man, you see that black dude riding that bike with no hands? Everybody can see it, right? And that's what the artwork does for me. So I said I'm not an orator, but I'm talking a lot. Let me get out of here. I'm out.
See why that was the last question? But no, really, folks, thank you. Thank you very much for engaging with us for this conversation on culture. Again, this episode brought to you by Flower City Arts Center, standing in solidarity with the Greater Rochester MLK Commission for this year's theme, Be Who We Ought to Be. I think that each of us should really, really internalize that statement and answer it for yourselves. How do you be who you ought to be? I know that I be who I ought to be by being here at Flower City Arts Center, right? There's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I'm able to do the things that I'm doing. And I take that very seriously because I'm one of one, as a matter of fact, right? And so with to whom much is given, much is required. And so I continue on that path, and I not just stay in my lane, but I forge new ones. Yeah, that's what I'm about. So thank you again. This has been Conversations on Culture. Peace and blessings, everybody.